Self-defense is self-defense.
Ride Along Live.
I had a conversation on Ride Along Live with attorney Jerry Edwin as he laid out his case for his client's self-defense. This is an excerpt from what he had to say. Your client, self-defense. What could you tell us about this particular incident?
No, I'm not going to talk about the incident here. I'm telling you what his position is.
Right.
He is saying that I feared for my life and I took certain actions to save my own life. He had been beaten just about an hour or so before. He was hitting his head with a gun butt, several gun butts in his head, and then several persons, including Mr. Brave Boy, at least one person, including Mr. Brave Boy, came to his house, and it flared up from there.
I'm no attorney, by the way, so I did some digging. And this is what I found about a self-defense incident. A self-defense incident is anywhere, if you're in court, your attorney might raise something called the privilege of self-defense. You know, what's that? Very simply, it's not defense of stuff or something. It's defense of you, defense of yourself. Now, to do so, you have to be in some kind of threat. Now, if you use deadly force, then you would have had to be under threat of deadly force. Now, if you're under threat of something less than deadly force, then you need to have used something other than deadly force. In other words, your reaction must be somewhat proportionate to the threat that you're being faced with. Now, this is called the affirmative defense, or sometimes known as a privilege, depending on which state or jurisdiction you're from. What that means is that your attorney or your legal team is going to have to show to a judge and a jury that certain triggering criteria will be met in order to raise that defense. Otherwise, no one's going to be allowed to argue on your behalf. But that's the important part here. Whenever you're talking about an affirmative defense or privileged defense, the actual burden is on you initially in order to show that the triggering criteria, the triggering facts are present. Otherwise, the judge is not going to let your attorney even argue those facts in front of the jury. This engages what is called the burden shifting analysis that happens in court. In other words, first the burden starts on you, and then you're going to have to show that those triggering criteria are present. The fact that the person was attacking you with a gun or a knife, they swung first, whatever it might be. Then, once your defense team has proven that to a sufficient degree, which depends on what state or jurisdiction you may be in, what's going to happen next is that the prosecutor would usually have to disprove that privilege beyond a reasonable doubt. As you can imagine, that could be oftentimes extraordinarily difficult for prosecutors to do. That is why the privilege of self-defense is so important. But remember, and it needs to be emphasized, self-defense is self-defense. We're not talking about you wake up in the middle of the night and you see someone break into your car and you decide to shoot at them. You're not defending yourself in that case. You're defending your car. That's self-defense, not self-defense.
Ride Along Live.